Welcome to Future Talk. On today's program, we're going to talk about mixed reality, which is a combination of virtual reality and augmented reality, and how it can be used as a tool for improving society. My guest is Carl Teo, founder and president of EcoCarrier, which is a privately owned telecommunications company in Canada. Carl has developed a mixed reality tool called Merescence, which runs on an iPhone and which enables people in different locations to interact together in a mixed reality environment. The ultimate goal is to promote what Carl calls social edification, raise the digital consciousness of the general population, and build a kinder, more equitable, and more enlightened society. The practical applications range from helping people perform better in their jobs to teaching young children vital social skills. Carl, great to have you on the program today.
Thank you very much for having me on your program.
So, Carl, what is the basic idea behind Merescence?
Well, I feel that technology is there for one to be able to make use of it, to do things in a much more efficient manner, with greater efficacy. By that I mean, if people are not able to be together in the one same space physically, or at the same time, the technology today available should be able to allow them to be together in mixed reality.
Now, I understand that you're going to give us a little demonstration of Merescence. Yeah. So why don't you go ahead and show us the demonstration? You have your iPhone right here.
Yes, indeed, yeah. I have it here. I'm going to bring up the app.
Now you're going to connect to one of your colleagues at your company in Canada,
yes.
I believe.
Yeah, typically the application of this service, it is a cloud-based service. It involves two parties. One party is seeking some kind of advice or seeking some kind of information, and there's another party that is capable of or is able to provide the advice or the information sought.
So in this demo, you're going to be the seeker?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll be the seeker here for today's demo, and the giver is in our development lab back in Canada.
Okay.
Yeah. And let me just go ahead and do this. So when the app is loaded, it shows a sign-in screen. We just go over this quickly. So it takes a few seconds.
So you have a list of people who you can contact. The people know that you're going to contact.
Yeah, but yeah, it could be pre-arranged, or otherwise in a public mode. What we will have is the seeker connecting to the cloud server, our platform, and the platform will, depending on what the particular problem is or what kind of information is required, will go out and match the particular job requirement to find somebody who can provide the advice or the information. That will be the giver part of things. So you look at this app, and it includes a messaging service, back and forth, it's chatting. So we're not going to show particularly the messaging aspect, which is essentially a chat.
But you can
feature.
text as part of the app. You can communicate
I can
by
put
text.
here, for instance, I say hi, and then my colleague in the lab will reply with a message, or I can send another one that is already written and send it, and you can see the reply that comes from there. So when I say hi, and the reply was, "Hello, Carl," and then I send this for the to schedule a demo. But let me just go ahead and show the main features, which is what I call see what I see, touch what I touch, and the possibility of showing empathy over cyberspace, meaning expression of sentiments in a way that one can do in mixed reality. So let me just first dial up the lab and calling advice giver. And then now the call has been answered. So, and I would turn on the streaming. And then if I point this to whatever object, as you can see, could be any of these brochures or today's newspaper here in Palo Alto. And then the images are sent over to the lab. But if I want the people in the lab to respond to it or somehow interact with whatever is being presented, I can tap on the hand. And you see here the hand of my colleague in the lab.
The blue hand.
Yeah.
Okay.
And if I were to put my hand here, you can see I can be pointing to different aspects. Or if I have a brochure here, I can also use just a pinpoint device. It could be a pen. For instance, if I were to use a pen, and I can be showing him, or we can discuss different pieces of information on this brochure. And then one can think in terms of somebody trying to get some help in completing a form, for instance, in an insurance policy application or something. So there are lots of situations where this will be very useful because it eliminates a lot of uncertainty as to what is being discussed or what particular point of interest.
So if they see whatever you see and you can point to anything and they can point to anything.
Yes, and to show empathy, you would require some human being present. We actually have an app pre-recorded or recording of a video that we're going to show afterwards that gets into that aspect. But for now, see what I see, touch what I touch, and then empathy or sentiments of expressions of sentiments over cyberspace. So the applications such as this will be useful in a number of situations. We currently have people in the hospital industries very interested in this. There's also organizations such as Doctors Without Borders, the humanitarian organizations taking care of refugee camps are interested in using this enablement platform to provide communications among the various refugee
I've heard of
camps.
people doing surgery remotely.
Yes, indeed.
As one possibility. You're in some third world country and you need the help of a surgeon someplace else.
Yes.
To give you advice. So you.
True. That's exactly a very useful application, because I like to tell people, imagine a situations in, let's say, in Tanzania, Dar es Salaam, in the middle of the night, and in a family where a child is taken ill and is, let's say, is convulsing or having shaking uncontrollably, and then the parents are very worried and not knowing what to do, and because it's in the middle of night, it'd be very difficult to get attention, medical attention or help. But midnight in Dar es Salaam is only 6 p.m. in Toronto, and 3 p.m. here in Palo Alto. So that being the case, we want to make medical services readily available to people who need it. And besides, we can make it so effective or so efficient that the images of a child suffering in some way can actually be transmitted in real time. And the doctors could actually be giving advice as to what to do by pinpointing it.
Now, has Marescence actually been released? Is this on the market, or is it still in the testing phase?
No, it is in advanced stages of development. It is due for commercial service on January 1st. next year. Yeah.
Now, I think we do have some videos, pre-recorded demonstrations.
Yes.
What's the first video we're going to see? What are we going to see in this demo?
Well, the first video that we have recorded shows an installation of a smartphone into a device. This is a commonly known as HMD, a head-mounted display, that incidentally is also very useful for lessons. If one were to want to be hands-free, wearing it on the head
So
is
a
a
manual
head-mounted.
task, that somebody will be instructed how to perform a manual task.
Yeah, somebody
By an expert.
who otherwise is not so good in imagining how things will look like, or not knowing which part to do first, and in the sequence of installations, the steps to take.
I think we actually have 3 short segments put together
Yeah.
in this video of different types.
Yeah.
Why don't we go ahead and roll that
Yeah,
tape?
I think that would be very useful.
The first video is an illustration of a collaboration between a seeker and a giver, where the giver guides the seeker in the installation of a smartphone in a head-mounted display, or HMD, named the Bridge, that allows the Merescence service to be used hands-free with depth sensing and capability for determining the dimension of the space surrounding it. Note that ordinarily, one can use Merescence service with the Merescence app running in a smartphone that is mounted on a gooseneck holder or stand to allow for hands-free operation. In the second video, the image of a handsome golden mountain dog is transmitted by VR streaming from the smartphone of one party at one end of the internet to the smartphone of another party in another end of the internet, geographically far or near apart in a telemeetup. The video shows that the party being presented with the image of a very handsome dog is able to express empathy for the dog and owner over cyberspace. The third video shows 2 parties in communication over Merescence service is able to have a dialogue and discussion about some documents with voice, text, and video streaming, complete with see what I see, touch what I touch in Merescence as mixed digital and physical reality as though they are together in one same physical space at the same time. Merescence enables the greatest efficacy and highest cost efficiency of communication and interaction among parties who are geographically dispersed.
Okay, so that was a video showing some of the capabilities of Merescence. Now, I sort of suspect that that dog had no idea that he was being the recipient of all that affection.
Well, yeah, that's true. But the dog's owner, in this case, would appreciate that the other party is actually liking the dog, and like to stroke the dog and so on.
Let me ask you this: you have somebody at the other end there. Do you have any voice channels? So let's say finger pointing doesn't quite convey enough information. Can the people on each end talk to each other?
Yes. Currently, the 2 parties who are geographically dispersed and separated, they can talk with voice currently over WhatsApp or Skype, but we are actually implementing a native voice or audio capability right in the app itself.
So the iPhone itself has the capability to have a phone connection while you're running Merescence, but you're going to add voice capability to the app itself.
Yeah. But indeed, yeah, that's what we'll do. And so on top of that, you also could have chat messaging back and forth. So there are 3 things. There's text messaging or chatting, and there is video streaming, and then, of course, there is also audio. to guide the discussion
And I
along.
assume if you want to point at things instead of a hand, maybe you could use a little thin pointer so you could point
Yes.
more accurately?
Yes,
Doesn't
of
have
course.
to be a hand?
No, no, need not be a hand. I think the video shows that there was an incident when a pen is used. But in the case of a medical examination, it could be some spatula or something, you know.
I think we have one more video showing some other capabilities. Can we see that final video, please?
A field personnel is experiencing difficulty with an installation job and needs an expert to help overcome the problem. As it happens, the expert is located remotely. The field personnel uses the Resonance app in her smartphone to connect to an expert using a tablet that is also running Resonance app. Through the cloud-based Resonance service platform, all interactions between the field personnel and remote expert are over IP through mobile broadband on-demand data service. The field personnel starts with live streaming her workplace to the remote expert in See What I See mixed reality. The remote expert then helps the field personnel with installing the components one at a time. The remote expert does this by virtual hand-holding, finger-pointing, and/or step-by-step actions to be followed by the field personnel in Touch What I Touch mixed reality. To achieve this, the remote expert's hands are overlaid on the video stream received from the field personnel. The video feed is then sent back to the field personnel in real time, through which the remote expert guides the field personnel in solving the problem.
Okay, so that generated some additional capabilities of Morescence, performing a practical task. There are a lot of companies working on this. Is there something unique about Morescence that makes you different from some of the other competitors in this space?
I think, as far as we know, what we are bringing out is the first of its kind. There are similar solutions, but not to the extent that one can do this in real time, practically real time, because the latency is less than 1 second. And in all the different media, voice, text, and streaming videos.
Now, one thing interesting about your work is that you want to apply it to something called social edification.
Yes.
What do you mean by social edification?
Well, as we know, the word edification comes from edify, or edifying, building, that is. So social edification is my way of calling a phenomenon, if you like, or a kind of a movement that will help bring up people's ways of doing things, behavior.
Like educate them, change their attitudes?
Yes, knowledge, but in a very positive way. So we do this with the very young, 3 to 10 years old.
I believe we have a video for that, in fact.
Yeah, we do have that one.
We have a video aimed at children. Can we see that video, please? The one aimed at children.
What, why, when, where, who? 5 very important words that begin with W. They are W5, ba-da-da, ba-da-da-ba-ba-ba. You say them to make Q to get A. What's Q&A? Questions and answers. When you've got the answers, you can dig deeper with asking what if and why not? And fire up your imagination. What's imagination? Imagination is about things and experience you'd like to have in your future. There is no future without imagination. What? Why? When? Where? Who? Dig deeper. All right. What if? Why not? Very good. Now, one more time, all together and louder. What? Why? When? Where? Who? Dig deeper. All right. What if? Why not? Now go to W5 and go imagine.
Okay, so that's kind of cute. That gives some positive messages toward children, I think. Now, what does that have to do with fluorescence, though?
Well, not particularly, but it comes within the coverage of social edification, which consists of a number of projects. W5 Go is one of it. We have also, that is W5 Go, W5, the 5 Ws that was mentioned.
Who, what,
in the,
when, why, where, or something like that?
Yes, and then on top of that, we asked the 2 additional questions. What if and why not, to fire up the imaginations. The other things that we're talking about under social edification is the aspect of help making or influencer making a kinder, a more equitable, and more enlightened society. So today, if somebody has a situations, for instance, if somebody is is wheelchair bound and needs to go see a doctor, family doctor, or go to a clinic, it is very difficult for this one person to go see a doctor because it takes somebody to push the wheelchair, transport the wheelchair into a vehicle, and then have the vehicle go on the road and go to a hospital and wait in a waiting room to see a doctor for maybe 10 minutes. And then the return journey would take as long. So it could be a greater part of a day just to see to get medical consultation for 10 minutes.
So you could have a remote consultation where you don't leave your house?
Yeah, if you were to use medicines, all they need to do is the use of an iPhone or a smartphone for that matter. And then the doctor at the other end will be the advice giver, and the patient is the advice seeker. So the whole thing only takes 10 minutes, as it should be, and not the rest of the time of the day that's wasted. That's one thing. The other thing is about being a more equitable society, because the technology is there to make it available to the larger part of the population.
So the technology should be inexpensive, right? Anybody should be able to use this.
Yes.
Now, when you say people should be more equitable or more enlightened, how do you do that? I mean, do you just make videos that tell people they ought to be that way?
No, not particularly, but in the case of being more enlightened, I would like to point to the applications of medicines, where we have what I call one-to-many. So there is an example in one of the articles that we have written of the aging populations. It's under aging populations, people are getting into retirement, the baby boomers and so on. And yet some of these people have some special skills, and they want to be able to part some of the knowledge of special skills to the larger population. That's for one thing. The other thing is to make it a more fulfilling way of getting into retirement.
So you can still communicate remotely to disperse your knowledge, even if you can't travel very much?
Yeah, and that will be enlightening others in so many ways. And at the same time, making it possible for the person who is teaching or imparting the knowledge, having a more fulfilling way of carrying on retirement, I think.
Now, I understand you're also doing some work with the United Nations. What's that all about?
Yes, we particularly are interested in addressing some of the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. There are 17 of them. And in many of the managed services and technology that we have developed or are developing, we come to situations where we can address some 10 of them, 10 of the 17. Examples will be quality education.
So education sounds like a big one, because education is very expensive with all the expensive buildings you have to create. If you could stay home and absorb it remotely.
That's true. And also decent work and well-being. There's another UN SDG, or the Sustainable Development Goals. And there is climate action, because we also have under social edifications another program that is specially targeting the use of our technology and managed services to do advertisement and promotion campaigns that's totally paperless.
What's the most important thing to you about Morescence? What are you most hopeful that it will end up accomplishing?
Well, I hope it will eventually be very much in use, not just by a select part of the population, because we have in our plan to have this platform being made available to all kinds of businesses and services. So others can run vertical businesses, vertically integrated business on this platform, such as telemedicine, collaborations, distance learning online, or just regular, ordinary
But I'd like to keep the
telemeter.
conversation going, but I have gotten the signal that we have to stop now. So I'd like to thank you very much for being here. Carl Teo, President, founder of EcoCarrier, creator of Morescence. Thank you for watching. Visit our website, www.futuretalk.net. For Future Talk, I'm Marty Wasserman, and we'll see you next time.